Welcome to Real Estate Meets AI. I'm Sandeep Ahuja, CEO and co-founder of Cove, the AI-first architecture practice. If you're curious about how AI is reshaping buildings and spaces from the inside out, you're in the right place. Here's what I love about today's guests. They didn't just write a check on the future. They bought 56 historic buildings in the middle of a city and decided to run an entire neighborhood like a startup. Jon Birdsong and Lucas Roberts are rebuilding the South Downtown Atlanta, 16 acres of 100-year-old buildings that most people had written off. And they're doing it with robot security guards, a venture capital playbook, and a 40-year time horizon. And they're opening it to the world right as Atlanta hosts the World Cup. Two Atlanta natives, one wild bet. Let's get going. Jon, Lucas, welcome to Real Estate Meets AI.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So as I set both of you up, obviously, Jon, I've known you for a long time. You're the CEO of Soto Atlanta. And before real estate, you were deep in the startup world, Sales Loft, you founded Rivalry, you ran the biggest startup meetup in the Southeast, and you're a partner at Ventures, at Atlanta Ventures.
Yes.
Lucas, you lead architecture and design for the whole project. You came from Gensler, and now you're saving buildings that were quite literally on their last life. And the two of you, with David Cummings, are trying to build what you've called the largest startup district in the country. I am so excited.
We are too.
Amazing. So as we get into all of what I just talked about and share with all of our audience how you're doing what you're doing, you're both Atlanta guys. Jon, you're Brookhaven born and raised. And Lucas, you call yourself Atlian? Atlian?
ATL, yeah.
Oh, ATLian. Okay, there we go. That's what happens.
Outcast, yes.
So what's the thing about this city that made you want to bet your careers on its historic core?
Go ahead, Lucas.
So, I'm a little bit unique. We'll go into a little bit of super quick history. From Indiana, moved to New York right after college, fell in love with the urban environment in Manhattan, got married to my high school sweetheart. New York has a very short time horizon for a lot of people. Was very thankful for the experience of 6+ years there. With Gensler, had an opportunity to transfer. I wanted to transfer to Charlotte. My wife wanted to come to Atlanta. We came to Atlanta. I'm so thankful that we made that choice and that selection. I think Atlanta is one of those cities that has just an unlimited opportunity due to its location. All the reasons we know the Chamber of Commerce talks about this great city and why it continues to thrive. But why downtown? I think you talked about it in the opening. I think it's this large contiguous swatch of a portfolio that has been disjointed for decades that Newport, the previous owners, purchased and assembled and allowed for very thoughtful development to happen to occur. From a person that was outside of this, watching Newport as a designer and architect and a lover of great urban architecture, I was infatuated with the idea of recreating this urban core because we don't do this anymore. It's not super efficient. We need alleys, we need parking lots, we need surface parking, we need loading, we think we need all these things, but we have a stock of buildings that don't have those things. However, the thing it does have is this incredible vernacular. When you walk the streets, the scale of the buildings, the proportionality of the storefronts, the way that these floors are set up, inherently draws us to want to love these buildings. And it's not to say that we don't love modern architecture and great new ideas, but these buildings have something that affects us really deep down inside. And I had it. I felt it whenever I rode my bike down Broad Street way back in the early 2010s. And seeing that and feeling that drew me to it. So then the opportunity I'm going to assume that everybody knows the South Downtown story of Jon and David visiting 23 and take this portfolio. When this happened, I'm like, I have to do everything in my power to get as close to these people as I possibly can to try to be a part of this and not to fanboy out on this because a lot of people love what we do, but I wanted to bring something to this project. I wanted to bring something to this revitalization that was unique to the skill set that I built for the past 20 years. I quit my corporate job to be able to jump in with both feet, be able to do this for the long haul because they believe in it. I believe into it. And then this first phase is the manifestation of a true Shover's tale. So I think this is the one spot that we had to be able to do something like this. That's what drew me to it, to be able to want to emphatically say yes.
Yeah, Sandeep. Where else in the world can you find major metropolitan city with 10 city blocks, 16 acres, 50 historic buildings connected to our Grand Central Station? Today, it's not that grand and it's not that central, but we are working on re-centralizing the urban core back to its originality, which is an exciting endeavor, no doubt. But yes, someone who's born and raised in Atlanta, I always grew up wondering, like, where is the downtown that you see in the movies? Where's the central spine where, it feels like Sesame Street? I grew up watching Sesame Street a lot, and I was like, I live in a big city. Where is that? As of, today, in the last 2.5 years of extreme dedication and perseverance from the team, we've built the platform for that to really come to fruition. A place where Atlanta's downtown identity can be codified, a place where downtown Atlanta's identity we can be proud of. I've got lots of theories, but I do think that the Olympics were great for Atlanta tourism and corporate gatherings, but at the sake of what? And not saying the Olympics hollowed out our downtown core, but there's just a lot of reasons why that's happened in Atlanta and cities across the country. But to be able to now provide a place where locals want to live and tourists want to go is exciting. And this happens to everyone who's in Atlanta. When their friend comes and visits, like, where should we go? I can remember years being like, oh, you got to hit up Lenox Mall. I remember years being like, you got to go to the Buckhead bars. I remember years being like, you got to hit up now it's like, go to the Beltline, right? When you go on the Beltline, it feels like a real city of, you don't run into folks you went to high school with. There's just a sea of strangers, and that's really fun. And so now, being the downtown urban core that's inviting, that's warm, that has gentle density, human scale, like, we've had this once in a lifetime opportunity to transform our downtown core. And we believe that when the boulder gets dropped, which it has, like, as of 10 days ago, 7 liquor licenses were distributed across the neighborhood. That to me is the boulders dropping.
We were just talking about the bikeability of Grant Park parents, which is myself. And I am excited about these 10 new places with the liquor licenses for Saturday brunch time. No, I couldn't agree more. I don't know whether or not you want me to, but the thing that I will always remember from what you just said, and I'm going to repeat it many times unless you tell me not to, is that we now have Atlanta's Sesame Street. That is such a cool way to put it. And that's something that I can relate to so much because I want that. I'm excited about that. I've been watching what you guys have been doing as an Atlanta. I call myself Atlanta native sufficiently because I say 15 plus years, you're from here. So I call myself that. So it's so core to what you guys are doing, and just the passion with which you speak of it brings out, the excitement that you share and the importance that that your work is bringing to the city. So it gets me really excited to hear about it. So switching gears just a little bit, but not too much because we're still very much in the whole mix. So obviously, Jon, technology is in your DNA. That's what you've done for a very, very, very long time, prior to now doing technology and real estate together. So I would be curious, in all of your many interactions, whether internal to Sodo or more importantly, even external, to other developers, other owners, and the way that they're thinking about real estate and AI. Where do you think that the development world is right now when it comes to AI and technology on a scale of 1 to 5?
Whew, I'd say it's probably a 2, and that's just a fairly decent guess. I mean, look, the basics of AI is you are in Claude, you are in Grok, you are in OpenAI, ChatGPT, solving lots of problems that are pervasive across a development organization. Mainly, just how do you run the economics and the pro formas and update that as quickly as possible? I mean, before you required 3 analysts, and now it's like, all right, we need an analyst and them to be supercharged on what they're doing. And that's a huge piece. And then it's all of the operations. How do you get signage out? How do you make sure that you're getting all the permits through? How can you leverage AI for all of this? It's an exciting time for those that are embracing it to be even supercharged. And then, just like anything else, at some point it'll be easy enough where others will adopt it. And it's kind of that crossing the chasm, just like with any other industry. But incredibly exciting. I mean, Lucas can speak even better on just how he does it on architecture designs. He's a architect that has leveraged AI incredibly well. And I think the response times, the turnaround times, the enhanced creativity, and really, like, how do you reuse some of the content and put it on social too to get people excited about it, about the what if and the before and afters. But yes, 2 out of
I will say that that's not too different to what I have heard across other guests, on the podcast. 2 to 3 is where most people shake out. I think we had a couple fours, but I've not heard any fives just yet, which is not surprising given how early we are in the journey. So what I just heard from you, John, is that not only is it 2 to 4, but it's across the broad spectrum of things from, the pro forma and analytics, on the front end of it to the actual design work, development work, all the way to the end and getting the word out. Like it's across the entire cycle, and it's, starting to penetrate in some capacity. Some maybe more, some maybe less. It's roughly what I heard, to recap for all that are listening.
Yeah. And also make sure that it's not AI slop,
Yes.
which we see a lot of,
Oh no.
not internally.
Lucas, same question for you. Where do you think we are on the 1 to 5 scale?
I mean, coming from a design background, I'm from Gensler, the world's largest architecture firm, right? Just architects everywhere. Very slow adopter to technology just as a whole. And I don't think it's just like a corporate thing. I think overall, architects are some of the slowest people to adopt to technology for the great majority of them. But where they are right now, I would say it's like a 1.5, 2 maybe. And I don't think it's because people aren't trying. I think we're kind of like way back in the day when the railroads started going transcontinental and people still had horse and buggies and are like, you know what? I can go faster in my horse and buggy because the trains aren't complete yet. The track's not all the way laid down. We're going to laugh about how far we make it in the next 5 years. In the 10 years, it's going to seem like it's not in the same conversation. We're so early on and we are just scratching the surface of, hey, let's try this. Oh my gosh, look at this. Well, in order to kind of get this across the finish line, I need to go back to my manual way of whatever your workflow is, Adobe, Revit, however you still do things. We're so far off from actually leveraging this fully. So that's why it's a 1.5. It's not because people don't know it. The track's not laid yet. And I think it's one of those things that we've tried to automate a lot of things with readily available tools. And we get close. And I think we see the light at the end of the tunnel. And we started talking about it as we were waiting to start up here, is that our industry is just still so much about picking up the phone and calling somebody. I need to get this permit done. I need to make contact with this individual. And there's not an AI platform that can really get us across the way. That 80% that AI can do still doesn't even compete to that 20% of what we really have to do the project. And I blush about what John says about what we're doing here. I really think we are creating something special, and not to discount that another development shop doesn't do this, but it comes down to authentic storytelling and trying to find ways to really tell a story from a personal point of view for a lot of these elements that we're trying to design. These 10 city blocks, you can't put it into Claude and be like, make awesome neighborhood. There's a lot of failure in it. I think that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed this testing in public. People come out here. There's still activities that's going forward, and there's no AI that can really help us. It can assist us. And I think our generation as a whole, I'm gonna lump all of us together, the whole industry, is that I always think of AI as my pretty above average friend. Like, what would you ask your pretty above average friend a question about? What would you ask your above average friend to help you visualize? And then I want to take whatever my friend does and we'll collaborate a little bit, but ultimately I'm fully taking back the reins to be able to make sure that this happens. So until the tracks get laid all the way to the other ocean, I think we're always going to be around a 2, and people are going to pour money into trying to create proprietary large language models. And then they're just going to get leapfrogged by Moore's law. And it's just going to be embarrassing that some of these people try to create something proprietary when the tracks just aren't done yet. So I think we'll get there. It's not a detriment to be at a 1.5 or a 2 right now. It's just where we are in this evolution.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how you describe it. I like your part about having the reins, which is obviously something we think a lot about, not only as architects, but truly even in the software development, right? Like if we even think about Cursor, which is on the most cutting edge, or like, software development, I think that's the first where the tracks are coming or tracks have come. Even there, you've got to be able to control your code. AI might support you. It might be more than your above average friend, but it's still not your boss. You know what I mean?
Great point.
And I think that's such a great way to think about it. And I can't agree more. So, all right, 1.5 to 2, that sounds about right. And not saying that that's good or bad. I think that agreeing with you, that's just a realization of where we're at. So chatting a little bit more about how y'all have been talking about it. I feel like you have been extremely transparent about the math. I think you wrote that if everything goes perfectly, year one makes you something like 4.8%. And that is certainly not how developers usually talk. That's, in my view, how startup founders talk. And I would love to get your thoughts on the venture capital playbook that you're running on the entire neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely, I don't know if there is a playbook on this, but so the background is, David Cummings, he texted me and a couple other entrepreneurial friends and said, hey, all of this is about to go to the courthouse steps. What would we do with 10 city blocks, 16 acres, 50 plus historic buildings? And since then, purchased 60% of it, deed in lieu, 40% off the courthouse steps, have put over $200 million of cash into the neighborhood. It's a massive risk. It's a big bet on Atlanta. Phase one has been, we wanted unique, boutique, and local, and the best of the best. And in order to do that, we had to make sure that there were attractive terms that folks felt were mapped the risk profile of going into a new neighborhood. So let's just say like there's just this massive risk involved. Now with the time horizon, hopefully 20, 30 years from now, people will be like, I can't believe this was picked up off the courthouse steps. I think that would be like a mega home run. But this area has been so underinvested in for so long. What makes us different than the other 20 folks that have tried to come in and do this? The market's still going to tell us, right? And so the restaurants have to succeed, and we want to make sure that they succeed, because if the restaurants succeed and folks are coming and they feel safe, then the groundswell of momentum really picks up. And so from an ROI perspective, when we look at the phase one, this is like, look, worst case scenario, we get everything up and going. People are like, okay, this is cool. And now we've got, a downtown that's a little bit more active than it was before. And hopefully, the restaurants all stay in business and it's a success. And, that's worst case scenario, hopefully. Best case scenario is this turns into the coolest neighborhood in Atlanta, and we let the traditional developers do their thing around us. And there's more investment, and there's more jobs, and there's a lot more housing. And Atlanta shines its brightest light all within our original founding neighborhood and our downtown core, and a bunch of businesses are started here. And over the next couple decades, it transforms Atlanta into a city where people have even more opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So basically, what I'm hearing is that you're not underwriting a building, you're underwriting this 40 year compounding bet on a place.
Yes.
And I think that in itself is such a cool way, a long-term, big picture view to think about a city. And I, for one, can say, I really want you to get to the best case, or even better than your current best case scenario, where this is the coolest place to be in.
It is really fun to be working on something that is pretty much universally supported and endorsed, which is, how many times can you do that in your career? And it's not just like, people want people to succeed, right? But this covers a wide audience, Atlantans,
Yes. It connects a really wide group of people, which I think is so, so cool about it.
Yes. Yeah.
So, Lucas, bring us into the buildings themselves. You said they were on their 8th life. I think I read somewhere that if it didn't happen now, this was the last chance to save the 1900s building stock. So what does it take to actually bring a 115-year-old building back? And why is restoring it so much harder and so much more expensive than building it new?
Yeah, I mean, John's unique. Just to touch on the money thing, just super quick. I mean, the idea that these blogs are out into the world that have
Yeah.
snapshots from the financials that we look at is a testament to how open and transparent this is. I mean, you're not going to go to a big CRE house and be like, hey, what did you guys really pay for that? What did it really cost? And I think it's extremely refreshing. I think that's why you get such a wide swatch of Atlantans being like, I'm behind this. I mean, I see it. I see what they're doing per door. I see what they're doing for the investment. It's local ownership. It's local capital. I mean, it feels good. It feels very good. And I think this ties into the buildings, right? I talked about it in the intro, that these buildings feel good. And I remember having coffee with somebody when I wasn't here yet, and they were just like complaining about like, why don't they just turn these buildings on and just let people start to get in them? And I mean, even now, I'm just like, guy, like it doesn't work like that. Like these are non-habitable buildings that don't have electricity or running water and that are a biohazard. And I think that's one of the things that when people see these beautiful facades, when they're either with it covered in graffiti and security gates, you have that like, oh shucks, like it just needs a little love. It's a little cute 2-story building. It just needs a little help. And I mean, these buildings foundationally are just on their beyond their last leg. And this is another podcast of just looking at Google Earth and seeing how many roofs are collapsed. And you can't see it a lot of times because they look like shadows. But when you look at our South Downtown, I mean, there are massive gaps in a lot of these structures that had for decades water pouring into them. And I think water is the enemy of every architect and designer and owner in the world. And I think that these have been going into the basements of a lot of these buildings for decades. And these then sprout up the worst of the worst and start to decay all the wood, the joists, the heavy timber. Some of the original heavy timber that was cut in Georgia built these buildings. And so when we started to open up these buildings on Broad Street, that's the story I'm trying to tell right now is like when we walk down Broad Street with Spain marching down to Atlanta Stadium and everybody's like, these buildings are just so cute. I mean, these are just like great, great little buildings. And they don't understand that the amount of thought and time and capital went into these things is it's absolutely incredible. So what I'm on a campaign to do is every week I'm trying to just tell the quick story of each one of these buildings on Broad, not the history of it and not the nostalgia of kind of dredging up what was, but that what we've done in the past 2.5 years. I mean, this isn't going to be done again. First of all, because there's not these buildings around in this continuation. That's the reason why these buildings have to be saved. These are the last relics of this bygone era of Atlanta's founding neighborhood that we're turning back on to founders so that each one of these buildings needed everything. When you're in Founders Green and you're up against Broad Street by these gigantic smokers at Broad Street Barbecue, you're walking across a gigantic Georgia Power transformer that's buried in the ground. When you walk by 85 Peachtree on Peachtree, that's another transformer that had to be installed just to power these buildings. So there's a utility of just what would be in greenfield development of I need to bring power to the space that has now been installed. That is completely not a visual that anybody picks up on because of it's buried into the space. Well, I'll just tell the story of 97 Broad. 97 Broad's this gorgeous 3-story building. I mean, it's one of the buildings that I think we're all really high on. All of them are. They're all our children that we love. But 97 is in particular has some just beautiful steel ornamentation on the header. I think we've treated the facade in such a way that it really accentuates a lot of the characteristics of it that made it this awesome building. When you look at it on Google Street View, there's a small little weed that's popping out the top of it. And it looks like it's something that you would just get on the top floor and pull it out. But this is a weed that went through the 3rd floor, the 2nd floor, the ground floor, into the basement. And what it was doing is, as it grew, it wanted to pop the brick facade off, which is right, number one, just dangerous as all get out. And so the idea is that when we started doing the project, like, well, we need to get in there and kill this root, right? I mean, it's so easy to say, but this root had penetrated so far that we had to end up downstacking this whole brick facade. 2 bays of it. It's a 4-bay building. Half of the building, that's the north facade, got completely downstacked. Each brick was then manually cleaned to be able to make sure that all that organic matter was off of that brick. The root was then completely taken out, and then it was rebuilt. You can't tell, and you're not supposed to tell. But the idea is that there's a reason why so many people have failed at this. It's not a quick 2-year turn and burn. This is going to become the jewel of what we have. And just as when you throw a rock into a pond, that initial impact is the one time that you kind of go down before you go up. And that this is our impact spot. Broad Street is the most important space where people are, that's our center of gravity. We all need to be in. So these buildings, these continuous buildings have all been redeveloped to such that they should withstand the next 125 years. Most of them have been completely rejoisted. We also have saved a lot of these elements too. When I say they've been rejoisted and we put in new stuff, some of the beams that had been taken out of it were taken to a sawmill. They were cut down into floorboards. They were prepared to be wood flooring. When you walk into Broad Street Barbecue, and you walk into that floor, you're walking onto the historic beams that have been renewed again. And so that's going to have a new life in South Downtown. So I think it's one of those things that everything was wrong with these. So but I think to our point is that
to put it mildly.
But just to kind of close it, like we had to do it because if we didn't do it, they would have been past the point of even repair. And I think that 97's the case in point is that it was just hanging on by a thread, a literal thread. And I think David and John's foresight to see how people are be drawn to these buildings, but not also just from a quick Instagram snap, but that these buildings are going to hopefully when a tech entrepreneur walks into here, and they're going to feel such a connection just to the vernacular, but then also how special the space can be for them and their business to be able to want to be able to plant just as that, that plant planted in there, that they want to be in these buildings. And I think that's what we really try to focus on, of letting make sure that they have an appropriate place to be able to land and that they can continue to grow and develop in these spaces.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story of the plant. That's going to stay with me for some time. But what I overwhelmingly hear when Lucas you talk or John you talk, the thing that I can tell very clearly, and I hope my audience can as well, is that this is so hard. And I can hear the vulnerability come through that none of this is easy. This is really hard. It is a big bet, and we're giving it all. That's the thing that overwhelmingly, that's the feeling that I get that I'm walking away with, which is just so cool. And I will agree, it's so different than any other developer I have ever spoken to share not just the vulnerability on the financial playbook, but Lucas, even the vulnerability on the challenges of design and the challenges of architecture. You are correct. Not too many other people speak like this, which is definitely, I am sure, what brings people close and connected, because you're saying it like it is, which is so cool.
So I want to punctuate one point really quick. And so, yes, 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 thank you. I think that's an exact recap. It's also a ridiculous amount of fun. I think that's one of the things that cannot be understood. Is like how hard this is that it is literally fun. And one super quick story. Sunday night, there's tons of memes about people in corporate life being like, oh my gosh, it's Sunday. You get the dread of having to go to work. And I was talking to my wife and she was like, oh man, we got Monday coming up. I'm just like, oh, yeah, I hear you. And she kind of paused and she's like, but you don't feel like that, do you? I'm like, no, I don't. So I do. It's the hardest thing that I've ever done professionally for sure, but it is also the absolute most rewarding as well. So I don't want to discount like this is just, we're slaving away in the salt mill here. This has been an absolute pleasure to be able to have the privilege to work on these buildings and these puzzles.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, it's easy to publish the economics when the economics are so dire. I can understand why a lot of real estate people don't want to publish it, because they're like, well, am I going to make a 16% return, a 19% return, or 12% return? And that all depends on how they're going to negotiate with the tenants. So we are in a very, very, very unique construct. And of course, that is all a testament to really David Cummings' vision and fortitude and belief in downtown Atlanta.
Yeah, awesome sauce. Well, switching gears just a little bit as we get here towards the end, obviously, y'all spoke a little bit about technology and AI that you've used, but what we didn't talk about is, your four-legged robots with LiDAR and computer vision patrolling the construction sites, or you're layered in with flock safety, the license plate recognition, gunshot detection. Like you're really, really cautious and really making sure that folks feel safe. We're building and data and, kind of that whole layer over the neighborhood of security. How does that change? And what's possible for safety, for leasing, and for understanding how people move through this place? And surely y'all are leveraging technology and AI all through that. Read me a little bit into the thinking that you guys have around that.
Yeah. So, we've talked a lot about the built environment, but in actuality, the number one challenge to all of this is the perception of safety in downtown Atlanta. And if people do not feel safe coming in to downtown Atlanta, they're just not going to come, and it's a non-starter. And so, yes, our technology security stack, if you call it, we have Verkada cameras. Those are monitored 24/7, and we use Undaunted as robotics as a first responder. And so those are, little quadruped dogs. Before Undaunted, we had 222 Mitchell. There were probably 8 to 10 people living in there. And yeah, which is not safe. And after Undaunted, there are none. Downtown is still raw as much as people, you are in an urban environment. And so, we have also 24/7 APD, and we are extremely grateful for Chief Shearbaum and all of the officers who do their what are called EJs, extra jobs in South Downtown. And look, these are people that grew up in Atlanta, right? They went to H.L. Green's with their grandparents. They went to Kessler's. They grew up in this neighborhood. They haven't been back in 30, 40 years. 2010, Broad Street had more homicides than any other street in Atlanta. So that just shows
Oh
you
my
how,
goodness.
yes, how far we've come in like not that much time. I will be unequivocal in our support for security, our support for the brave officers who put their lives on the line every day. And we're grateful for them. And we couldn't do this without them. And so, yeah, it's a 24/7 between Verkada, Undaunted, our Telegram chat, which is just 24/7 with APD officers. It's a nonstop 24/7 organization and production.
Yeah. You know, kind of how you described even the whole security as a challenge and how you're tackling it and how, it's working out so that folks are feeling safe, restaurants are going in and people are visiting, and there's so much vibrancy that y'all have brought into the neighborhood as you describe it. I will say that to a non tech DNA real estate developer, that's a lot of AI and that's a lot of technology because it's humans and technology that are coming together in this almost seamless fashion. And all through the whole conversation, as Jon, you've spoken, as Lucas, you've described your process of quick iterations and testing out different things and solving design challenges. That's what I hear again and again and again, that it's so part of the DNA that it's almost not even a separate thing that, oh, now let's do this AI layer, which from all that I have seen and all that I've spoken to, like all the folks, that's the best way to do it, is where it's not like the slapped on thing. And it's just so wonderful to hear you guys make the impact that you're having fun while doing it, this super difficult thing, and creating this, as you called it, Lucas, cute buildings that took a lot of work to make happen. I'm really excited about the vibrancy in Atlanta for all our Atlanta audience. If you've not yet been to South Downtown, go to South Downtown. If you've not eaten at the restaurants, go eat there. If you have not yet had coffee there, go have coffee there. It is wonderful. I have been. It is incredible. That is everything that I had from a question standpoint for you guys. You have been such incredible guests. I enjoy your perspective. I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandeep. Remember, South Downtown is your downtown.
Oh, I like that.
Thanks so much for having us. Really, really fun, and for sharing your platform with us.
Thanks for listening to the Real Estate Meets AI podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe on your favorite streaming platform and follow us on social media at cove.inc. Until next time, I'm Sandeep Ahuja.